What's going on, everybody? We're here with Ep.4 of the HoopSimple podcast. We got Mr. Sirhat Chen in the house, Nate's finest, former TMU guard, Terror alum as well. Of course, I'm joined by the one and only Mr. Dovcon reporting live from St. John. If
Right.
this is your first time tuning in, this is our Levels series where we interview players from all different levels of college basketball and sort of give you the similarities and differences between each level and give you some insight and hopefully help you out along your journey wherever that may take you. So jumping right into it, Mr. Chen, why don't you tell us a little bit about your journey so far and how you ended up where you are right now?
So I started playing basketball in elementary school, maybe around 10 years old, like a lot of people do. And I didn't start, I guess, playing organized basketball till around grade seven. And then I really felt like I started taking it seriously in my last few years of high school. I went to a public school, Northern Secondary.
Yep.
Um, the basketball level wasn't as serious as I wanted it to be, but eventually, after I graduated, I was able to play prep for Terra Prep, and it was a really good experience. Exposed me to a ton of high level basketball, and then afterwards, I ended up at Ryerson, now known as TMU, and now I'm at Nate playing in the ACAC.
Beautiful.
Very good stuff. So Chenny, just for the fans who don't know, as Cam said before, you spent your first year not of eligibility but of university at
Yes.
TU, and then now you're in your second year at Nate in the ACAC, which is a CCAA conference. So just tell me about your time at TMU and TMU as a decision to commit out of high school versus other U Sports options, because I know you were talking to several schools.
Yeah. By the time I finished my prep year, I had quite a few U Sports who were very interested in me and had offered me. But TMU just seemed like the best option because it was close to my house. I connected with the coach as well, and it was always just a goal of mine to play for TMU. Like growing up as a Toronto kid, I think that's a goal for a lot of Toronto basketball guys. And it sort of just felt like a dream come true. So that's why I made my decision to go there. In terms of my experience, I had a really good time there. It was a big change for me going from prep to university in terms of my scheduling. With my prep, there was much more time for basketball, and since I had finished high school already, uh, school academics wasn't really a priority for me as much.
Right.
But Ryerson was a big change for me. Ton of schoolwork and super busy schedule all day. Yeah.
So you helped yourself a lot, and I'm just going to bring it up because I know what happened. You helped yourself a lot in that post grad year by working in your downtime.
Yes, I unfortunately my parents didn't want to support me playing prep, so I ended up getting a summer job and I worked throughout parts of the prep season when we were back home to help pay for it, and then eventually they ended up paying for the rest of it. So yeah.
So that's a quick. I got a quick PSA for all the high school hoopers out there who are looking for a free run to play prep basketball. Look at Sirhat as a example of, hey, he didn't have the money, so he went and worked and got the money, and now he's playing college basketball. Right? No one was going to stop him but himself, and definitely something to take away from that for sure.
Yeah, so also just for the folks at home that don't know, unfortunately, Sirhat had a little bit of a heart condition there last year, so he unfortunately had to redshirt at TMU. So talk a little bit about that and that experience and how that sort of affected your year and what happened from there.
Yeah, that honestly, I can't believe I forgot that. That was a really big thing for me. Um, Going into TMU, the summer going into it, I was feeling really good, and I had been doing well practicing with the team. And I was very excited for my first year at a really big name school for me.
Hmm.
Um, And then unfortunately, literally like one day after my first exhibition game, where I actually got to start,
That's
um,
right. I was there.
I,
against the D1?
I was in the hospital for about 2 weeks, and I basically had a heart condition called myocarditis, just inflammation and fluid in the heart. Really unfortunate. And I didn't even realize I had it. I was playing with it, and I didn't know. And then I missed about 4 months ish. I came back in basically December, like right as our game started ending, and we were going into the Christmas break. So it was a good time for me to come back, and I started training again. And after about a month, I honestly felt like I was in really good shape. But I decided to continue as a red shirt just because there wasn't as much time. There wasn't enough time in the season as I
Yeah,
wanted to sort of earn my minutes and stuff. And being a rookie, I knew that it would take time to earn minutes. And I just felt like I didn't have that time coming back in January.
makes sense. Makes sense.
There was only like 2 games left when you were like actually medically cleared, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, like basically once got back, I was playing in January, but they hadn't spoken to me about playing in games yet.
Right,
And then
right.
I think some point in either mid January or beginning of February, they spoke to me about being like a backup point guard. They weren't really sure. The coaches weren't really sure what type of minutes, obviously, because they didn't know how I would actually play in games.
Mhm.
But they knew that we needed another supporting guard, and um, they wanted me to do it, but I just wasn't sure of myself and how the coaches would, react to how I played. So I decided to save my year.
Makes sense. So now going into, you just finished your second year and you moved out to Edmonton to play for Nate.
Yes.
Tell us sort of how you ended up over there and your experience so far.
Yeah. So my dad has always lived in Edmonton, so I always come here to visit. And after I decided to leave TMU, I was obviously looking for other schools. I wanted to pick an option that was somewhere close enough to either my mom's house or my dad's house.
Hmm.
So I didn't have to pay the cost of renting out somewhere. So it was either somewhere in Toronto that I could commute from or somewhere in Edmonton that I could commute from. Um, in terms of the Toronto schools, I looked into York, U of T, and some of the CCAs there, mainly George Brown. But with George Brown, um, I think maybe they just waited too long to actually tell me that they wanted me to come. I had been working out with them for like a month, doing pretty well. But then when I talked to the coach, he just wasn't ready to commit to me because he was still waiting on some other guys. And
Hmm.
then I didn't want to wait till the last week of August.
Yeah,
So
makes sense.
ruled that out as an option. And then a month prior, I had been in Edmonton and I was here visiting family. I took the opportunity to go work out with some schools here, one of them being Nate. Because Adika, Peter McNeely, he's a former Ryerson alumni.
Yeah.
He actually me on Instagram asking me to come to a couple workouts and seeing if I was interested. At the time, I told him I wasn't interested and I was looking to play U Sports. But by the end of the summer, I definitely was. So then that's basically how I ended up here. And I've had a really good time, to be honest. It's definitely a big change living in Edmonton versus living in Toronto. Definitely more fun in Toronto than here. Kind of crappy here, but I love my new team a lot. I've had a honestly, one of the best basketball experiences I've ever had. And the coaching has been really good as well. So no complaints.
That's dope. A lot of guys go from U Sports to CCAA and back and forth, and a lot of transferring happening in Canada throughout Canadian post-secondary basketball. Just tell me about, just from like a, I guess, psychological perspective, how it felt for you going from U Sports to CCAA, and like sort of differences in the game once you made the transition.
Yeah, like I think the biggest difference that I've noticed is there's definitely a big size difference overall on average, like team to team. If you stack up all the U sports versus all the CCAA, the biggest thing I would say is just consistency among CCAA. I've only played in ACAC, but even in the ACAC, I would say it's very, very top heavy. Where the first maybe two or three teams in the division or conference are very good, or just much better than, not necessarily very good, but just way better than the bottom three, or there's a very big drop off.
Yeah.
Uh, in my opinion, how I feel, like top CCA teams, I would say are on par with like lower level U sports. That's just how I feel about the situation. But
Yep.
then once you go down the line of CCAA, it gets to the point where there's a big difference. Like year, we played a team, and I think it was like a 45 or 50 point game, which shouldn't really happen if you're in the same league. Um, like I don't think I really see 50-point games in U sports often. Um,
Definitely in conference, you're not going to see that very
Yeah,
yeah,
often. I
okay.
mean,
in conference middle of the year, like that's like some AU stuff.
yeah, we had a 45 point first round playoff win in our,
Yeah,
I mean that's not a competitive conference head to toe. It's weird.
exactly. And I think also coaching plays a big role. Um, Coaching definitely plays a big role. There's definitely my coach. I know my coach is really good. My coaches are all really good. Um, but I definitely noticed there's uh, probably a lack of coaching. Not
Right.
just a lack, but a lack of coaching. A lot of teams don't look like they know what they're doing. A lot of teams don't look like they're running anything at all, really. Like they're just being screamed at, and they're doing like, yeah.
Right. And you felt like U Sports maybe a little bit more well coached, a little bit more methodical in the team approaches to games that you experience? Not
Yeah.
relative to your team, but just relative to what
Well,
you've seen.
to be honest, I can only really speak on my team. One
Right.
thing, just because I didn't actually play, it was hard to feel out the other teams as much, right? And feel, okay, what are they running, that type of stuff. Since I played this year on Nate, I could see what the ACAC teams were like firsthand. Whereas with Team U, I was just watching. But I know for at Team U, like our coaches were very paid a lot of attention to like things like scout, and we're very organized. And there's no way that all the teams in the CCA are doing the same. There's just no way.
I can tell you for a fact they are
Yeah,
not.
yeah.
That's good stuff.
That's good stuff.
Go
So
ahead.
next question I wanted to ask you was for some of our younger guys listening coming up, what would be your biggest piece of advice for somebody trying to make it as a college basketball player?
My biggest piece of advice, I would honestly say what helped me more than anything in my career was just finding a group of guys to train with, like a good group of guys who are similar minded as you. And I think that helps more than anything. Having one or two or three guys who you can consistently train with, who can consistently keep you accountable and who you can keep accountable, I think is one of the most important things when it comes to any sort of competition or like competitive sport or anything, because the consistency can't come when you're by yourself. It takes like a very, very, very special person to always be on top of things when they're alone. And it's very hard. I know I can't do it. So, um, if you're in high school, try to find guys who are hard workers or similar mindset as you, who you can, train with consistently. And then try to find coaching, right? Um, like it's okay to spend a little bit of money to try to find a good coach. Obviously, don't let people rinse your pockets, but you have to look at it as an investment, right? You're not throwing away money when you're paying for a coach or anything like that. You're investing in yourself, right? Obviously, you don't want to pay for bad coaching, but that's why it's important to do your research and even try out coaches that you're not sure about just to see what their style is and if it can help you. Um, yeah, that's what I would say.
That's good. That's really good.
Last one for you here. Um, Similar question, just different direction. Talk about your biggest regret from your basketball career, biggest decision you wish you had made differently.
Honestly, I have a ton of regrets. Um, my biggest one would probably be after my high school year, going into my prep season and just my prep season in general. I was starting guard on my prep team, and we were a good team. We beat a lot of good teams in Canada, but our season overall wasn't the best in the States, and I definitely didn't play at all as good as I should have. Um, that summer going into Terra Prep was one of the best summers I've ever had. I was playing really good against really good competition, like top guys in Toronto, and it just didn't translate to the progression didn't translate to the prep season as I should have. And I think that's because I think I might have gone an inflated head. My
Mm.
priority changed. I wasn't as focused on, the basketball, the grind, the everyday training, as I should have been. I started focusing on other things like outside distractions, girls, all sorts of things like that. And I sort of wasn't self-aware of what I was doing. Um, I had never been a guy to be late to practice, to be miss practice, or like anything of the sort. And that's something that happened during my prep season that was a really crucial time for me. And is the reason why I wasn't able to get to where I wanted to get to. I still ended up at TMU, one of the top U sports, um, which was like a huge goal of mine. But going into it, I was aiming to go play Division 1 or D2, somewhere better than
Yeah.
U Sport. And I couldn't reach it because I didn't have my priorities straight. I think it's important to have people who will keep you in line,
Mm.
and I did, but I just didn't listen. Um, but yeah, like that's what I would say. Just priorities, and just remembering that there's a short period in your life where you have for certain opportunities,
For
and
sure.
then a period in your life where you have for long-term things, right? Things like partying, girls, all that sort of stuff. It can always come afterwards, or even a year later, or a month later. It just can't be right now when you need to be doing something else. Yeah,
Gotta
That's good
keep the
stuff.
main thing the main thing.
yeah, for real.
Well said. It's a lot of good takes there, and you were knocking yourself quite a bit on some decisions, but let's also remember that you were a public school basketball player who, going into his senior year, only had an offer to play at Conestoga, so 0 point.
At zero, I got that.
Right.
I think I
That was
got that. Yeah, like I think it was a month
Yeah, it
before
was the
tear.
summer. It was
it
the
was the
summer.
summer going
Summer.
into his post grad.
Yep.
Right. So, I mean, me and Cam were there for the whole progression, got to see it, and he was knocking himself a lot there on some regrets. But this is a guy who has put more time into the sport than probably the majority of Canadian college basketball players. So, a lot of the advice that he gave for the young fellows watching is of really good value. So, hope you guys get another chance to go back and listen again.
Yeah, that wraps up all of our questions for today. So, Chenny, we appreciate you coming on, man. It's
Thanks,
been a
guys.
real pleasure. We'll be back next Friday with another guest, and that's it. Till next time.